I'm John Heilemann.
And I'm Mark Halperin. With all due respect to people who think countdown clocks are gimmicks, we got you gimmicks right here. On the show tonight, a stage setter, a staged event, and Hillary's mom in center stage. But first, the spotlight. Right now, it's shining on Vice President Joe Biden, who was the subject of Maureen Dowd's New York Times column over the weekend that pried open the political world like a fresh Delaware lobster. White House spokesman Josh Earnest got peppered with questions at his daily briefing today about a potential Biden presidential run, but Earnest squirmed away like a Delaware salmon. Actually, I have no idea what kind of seafood they ate in Delaware, but we do like our metaphors. John, an advisor to Beau Biden's son, is joining the Draft Biden movement as a fundraiser, and you wrote a piece on BloombergPolitics.com about what all this means. So tell us, if Biden gets in, what does it all mean, particularly for Hillary Clinton?
Well, look, Mark, if he gets in, it will be bad news for Hillary Clinton. I don't necessarily think the odds are I still think the odds are less than 50-50 that he'll get in, although clearly the way that these leaks came out of his world was designed to send a message that he's looking at it, no matter how seriously he is. But it'll be bad for Hillary Clinton. We could talk more about that. But just starting at the very top, bad for Hillary Clinton in terms of the media dynamic. That's the top line for my piece, which is, boy, Biden will get a lot of good coverage, and Hillary's already getting bad coverage, and this will just make it worse.
I think it's good for Clinton if Biden gets in, because Biden will make the debate stage more crowded. It'll take some of the steam out of Bernie Sanders. It'll make the debate a friendlier forum for her. So counter to your piece, counter to conventional wisdom, I think Joe Biden run, which still looks less likely than not, helps her.
Well, Brooklyn certainly would agree with you, and they would say probably, look, hey, she's at her best when she's fighting. She was at her best when she was fighting in 2008. But I got to say, another piece of it is I think the electoral, the vote math, right? I mean, Bernie Sanders is not that big a threat to beat her in Iowa, New Hampshire today. He could, he probably wouldn't. But in a three-way race where Biden and Clinton are competing for the same votes, that makes Bernie Sanders, gives him a lot better chance to win one of those early contests.
That's another way where I disagree with you. I think Biden might draw some of the anti-Hillary vote away from Bernie Sanders. Bernie's far to his left, Sanders far to his left. But I think Biden might draw away people unhappy with Hillary Clinton and diffuse the vote that Sanders can get, not take away from her.
Well, you are counter conventional wisdom and counter to my wisdom all day long today. What do you think about my point about the idea that the establishment, the problem for her is that if the roof caves in because of scandal, this gives the establishment somewhere to go, and that's bad for her too.
That is the one way where Biden, I think, is a threat. But the fact is he's going to have to get in. He'll have to be on the playing field too. He'll get plenty of scrutiny, and I'm not sure the establishment will see him as safer after the scrutiny.
All right, we'll see about that. All right. Hillary Clinton, speaking of her, is spending $1 million apiece in Iowa and New Hampshire to show her first two TV ads. The first one is about her mom, and the second one's about her life.
She was abandoned by her parents at the age of 8, sent from Chicago to L.A. to live with grandparents who didn't want her. But people showed her kindness, gave her a chance. When she needed a champion, someone was there. I think about all the Dorothys all over America who fight for their families, who never give up. She was mistreated, but she never gave up. And she taught me to do the same. My mom's life and what she went through are big reasons why standing up for kids and families became such a big part of my life. I believe that when families are strong, America is strong. It's your time.
Mrs. Clinton also put out a web video today, this one in support of Planned Parenthood.
These attacks aren't new. They're more of the same. We've seen them in Wisconsin, where Governor Walker defunded Planned Parenthood and left women across the state stranded with nowhere else to turn. We've seen them in Florida, where Jeb Bush funneled millions of taxpayer dollars into abstinence-only programs while gutting funds for crucial family planning programs. And we've seen them in Texas, where Governor Perry drastically cut funding for breast and cervical cancer screenings, and then signed legislation that forced health centers across the state to close their doors in an attempt to wipe out access to safe and legal abortion altogether.
Mark, that is a lot of on-screen action today from Hillary Rodham Clinton. What do you think about all that? And which of those two issues, the biography stuff or the Planned Parenthood stuff, matters more?
I think those are very well-made videos, the ads and the Planned Parenthood video. I think her performance is about as good as she can do. And I talked to some Democrats today who are worried if that's the best she can do in the ads, if that's the best they have, basically rerunning themes from the past campaign, people are worried that that's not exciting enough for a general election, although maybe enough to win. I think she's going out there strong now on the air on that video because they're worried about the Republican attacks that are coming in the debate, and they worry on television really soon against her.
Right. I think this Dorothy Rodham stuff, they have played it again and again. I think there's a reason they play that card again and again, because it works, and it especially works with female voters. I agree with you. They need enthusiasm, and that's a problem. I think the Planned Parenthood thing is also good politics for her, although I agree with you once again that it's not like she's lighting the screen on fire with either of these performances.
I don't believe this is only a base election. I do believe that she's got to find a way to reach across to the center, and I'm not sure that those are the messages that do it. I do think, though, as I said, that's as good as she can do. If that's good enough, she'll be the next president of the United States. But there are some Democrats who think there needs to be something else on the air. This is an interesting way to lead. Biography, of course, is the way a lot of people lead, but she's pretty well known. All right. Today, the current president, President Obama, announced the largest regulation of greenhouse gases ever that would affect coal and pretty much every other form of energy used in this country today. Democrats love the plan. Republicans hate it. At the White House today, in his announcement, President Obama said the stakes are plenty high.
We're the first generation to feel the impact of climate change. We're the last generation that can do something about it. We only get one home. We only get one planet. There's no plan B.
John, there'll be lawsuits galore. A lot of Republican governors are going to try to stop this. Republicans in Congress are denouncing it in no uncertain terms. Why is the president announcing these sweeping regulations now that are phased in over many years?
Well, look, I think two things are going on here, Mark. One of them is about the fact that there's not that much time left for him in office, and if he's going to do this stuff, he's got to do it now. That's the sort of obvious point. The second is I think he feels a little guilty over the fact that he did so little and got dinged up by his supporters for doing so little on climate change in his first term, and he's trying to make up for lost time.
This lays bare the notion that the president would be a uniter, someone who could be post-partisan and bring the parties together. Energy and environment are two huge issues. And look, he did make some compromises here, but mostly this is a very confrontational plan. I'm not sure we weren't able to find a single Republican in Congress who supports it.
The president has been winning politically when he's been taking the fight to Republicans and doing what he believes in. And I think they also feel on the political level, not just the substantive level, but they feel that this is he's playing a strong hand when he's taking the fight to his opponents.
Yeah, I do wonder how quickly the courts will address this. And again, the thing gets phased in over many years. A lot of disputes about what impact it actually would have. But these are tougher in many ways, not in all ways, but in many ways, tougher rules than he originally proposed, and Republicans none too pleased.
All right. In advance of tonight's Republican candidate forum in New Hampshire and Thursday's debate in Cleveland, Jeb Bush is addressing an issue that continues to bedevil him: immigration. Today, he detailed his plans to strengthen border security, enforce immigration laws, and crack down on sanctuary cities. Mark, this is a big problem for Jeb Bush, maybe his biggest problem in terms of issues. Why is he doing this, and why is he doing it now?
Immigration is almost certainly going to come up tonight in New Hampshire, going to come up probably in the Thursday debate. He wants to put out as many specifics as he can in order to talk about specifics not on the path to citizenship or legal status side, but on the enforcement side. He does have some positions on immigration, about the border, about sanctuary cities, that will be pleasing to conservatives, and he wants to get those out so he's got things to talk about and not unveil them at the debate itself.
Now, he's pre-butting some critics for sure and leaning into the conservative side of his immigration proposals. I just think that I continue to think that I admire the way he's dealing with this issue. I mean, he has, as we know, he's walked away a little bit from pure citizenship to legal status, and that might cause problems for him in a general election. But generally in this Republican nomination fight so far, he's basically said, I'm going to win this thing with an issue that's controversial with the base. I don't care. That's the way I'm going to win if I'm going to win.
And if you look besides Trump at the other leading candidates on the establishment side, Walker, Rubio, Kasich, all of them have hands on immigration that are not totally clean. And I think in the end, Jeb Bush is going to have to hope that voters are willing to overlook the fact that he is, of the major candidates, the farthest to the left on these issues right now.
I agree with you, too. He's just better for him to get it out there and kind of set the table for the argument to come rather than look like he's taking it on the chin and reacting. This puts him on offense. I think that's good for him, too.
Yeah, and of course, the fact that Trump is going to be a big part of the debate means the chance that everyone's going to gang up on Jeb Bush are not as high as they would have been a couple months ago. All right. On Thursday, Fox will hold that first big debate of the 2016 season. They're also holding their smaller session with the candidates not in the top 10. Donald Trump, though, is expected to be in the top 10 and at the middle of the stage because he is doing best in the national polls. So the question for everybody, how to deal with the Donald. KCCI Des Moines chief political reporter Cynthia Fodor asked Jeb Bush in an interview how he'd respond if Trump throws a zinger his way.
You only empower bullies by ignoring them. You have to stand up to them.
Standing up to the bully. So, John, if Mr. Trump confronts somebody in a bullying fashion in Cleveland, is it a smart strategy to do what Jeb Bush is suggesting, which is stand up to him?
Mark, if I had a gauntlet here, I would enact the throwing down of that gauntlet to say what I have what I think about what Jeb Bush is doing. He just basically provoked Trump. He's basically tried to bait Trump into attacking him. He's called him a bully. I think it's look. I don't know if this strategy is going to work, but it's clear that Jeb Bush is not taking the advice. At least from this, it's clear that he's not taking the advice of people who said, "Hey, stay in your lane. Don't talk to Trump. Don't give him oxygen." I think he's doing just the opposite.
That was a much more provocative statement than he's made in the last couple times he's addressed Trump publicly.
Right.
On the other hand, my suspicion from talking to the advisors to various candidates is the bar is going to be pretty high. Trump's going to really have to get in somebody's grill for them to go after him. Most of them, I think, will try to slough it off, make a slight little riposte at him, and then move on to their own message and not come back and pick a fight with him.
I'll tell you, though, if Bush has succeeded here in baiting Trump into an over-the-top attack, and Bush is actually prepared and comes back, hits Trump hard, scores the TKO or the knockout, Jeb Bush is going to walk off that stage looking like a very, very big, strong man.
Over to you, Mr. Trump.
All right, up next, inside Biden land, Delaware's Governor Jack Markell is live with us after the break. Our first guest tonight is the governor of the first state, Delaware Governor Jack Markell, whose name I foolishly mispronounced earlier. I apologize for that, Governor. Thanks for joining us from Wilmington. Governor, let me ask you this question. I know you don't have a lot of inside information about Joe Biden's deliberations about getting into this race. But if Joe Biden, your friend, decided to run against Hillary Clinton, what would he bring to the table in that race?
Well, he would bring a lifetime of work on behalf of the middle class, a lifetime of expertise and working with leaders all around the world. And plus he has a lot of accomplishments in the Obama administration to build on. So he would certainly bring a lot to the table. As you say, I don't know that anybody really knows what he's going to do.
Governor, you and the Vice President are friends, and so I know you're not a totally disinterested party, but you're pretty involved in Democratic politics, involved with the Governors Association. You've been all around the country. How would you rate his chances if he got in the race to actually win the nomination?
I think there are probably others who are better, seers at that, the political pundits. But I do know that, what he would bring to the table is, as I mentioned a moment ago, a focus on something that's been incredibly important and something that's been.
Governor, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know you don't think you're the best political predictor in the country. But just tell me, do you think if he got in, he could win the nomination?
Well, I think if he decided to get in, it would be based on a sense that it was possible. I mean, clearly you've got a strong front runner in Secretary Clinton for sure, who brings a lot to the table as well. But the vice president, in terms of somebody who really can connect with people who from all walks of life, somebody who has been focused on middle class economics long before it became a buzzword. That's who he is, and so he's not asked me for any a sense of whether he should run, and we've really not talked about it. But it's a very, very personal decision. But if he did choose to run, I think those are the kinds of strengths that he would bring to the table.
Governor, I asked you a second ago what Joe Biden would bring to the table. What would Joe Biden bring to the table that Hillary Clinton doesn't bring to the table?
Look, I think she brings a lot too, and I think in the end that'll be for the if he does decide to run, it'll be for the voters to decide. But I can tell you here in Delaware, of course, he is beloved. I mean, we have seen it. We've watched him for basically 4 decades now. And in terms of somebody who people. When we talk about him in Delaware, I mean, frankly, we talk about Joe because we know him, we know his family, and we know how important, how much he has valued his family. And really, we're all sort of part of the Biden family. When Beau tragically died, I said that the Biden family is Delaware's family. And that's how most of us think about him here.
Governor, again, I know you're a big fan of Secretary Clinton. I'm not asking you to say anything negative about her personally or even in terms of her standing, but is she a fragile frontrunner or is she a formidable frontrunner? Which of those two words would you choose?
I think she's formidable, and I think anybody who brings to a campaign the kinds of resources that she brings, not only financially but in terms of expertise and experience, I think she brings a lot. And I think what we're seeing now during the campaign is exactly what we hope to see. We want people to come forward with different ideas and let the folks hear exactly what your vision is for the country. So I think I don't underestimate her strengths at all. I think she'd be quite strong.
You think she's weaker now than she was 3 months ago?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's been so much written in the press. It's hard to say. I mean, I think when people step back and say, is this somebody who would be a good president? She has a lot of great strengths in terms of the campaign. Look, I guess in a head-to-head, maybe she's not as strong as she was a few months ago, but I think everybody predicted that from the beginning. Nobody expected that, several months in, she would be up by 60 points. I think you're starting to see people focus a little bit more, but you'll see people focus even more as we get closer to January.
Governor, just to follow up on that, I'm curious as to whether among your fellow elected officials that you speak to, I'm sure with some frequency, whether there is greater concern over the course of these past few months, specifically on the question of Secretary Clinton's problems with her email practices, and whether that might turn into a genuine problem that might cause some weakening of the support that she has currently among the Democratic establishment.
Amongst the folks that I've talked to, my fellow governors, no. That has really not been a major focus. I mean, what we are most focused on is, what is going to be the vision of our next president? Who has, a sense of the most important challenges facing the country? What are they going to do about it? How, in fact, do we build a strong middle class? How do we do with the challenges of globalization? That, for those of us who are in the game day to day and in this business day to day, we know that there are going to be ups and downs, and that's just the nature of the beast. I think we're a lot more focused on the issues and how any candidate is going to be, present a compelling message, not one that just only appeals to Democrats, but a message that also appeals to independents and even some Republicans as well.
Governor, got it just a moment, so just a yes-no answer. You know Jill Biden, you know Joe Biden. Is your gut he'll run or not run?
I honestly don't know, and I think anybody who says that they do, they just don't know.
Don't know is a good answer. I think it's the right one. Governor, thanks so much.
All right, Governor Jack Markell, thanks from me too. We'll be right back with a guide to the Republican debate stage after these words.
Our second guest tonight is the smartest pollster on either side of the Mississippi River, Ann Seltzer, the pride of Des Moines. Thanks for coming and joining us on the eve of the release of our national poll about the Republican field tomorrow. I want to talk generally in advance of that. We've never seen a 17-candidate field. We've never seen a candidate quite like Trump, leading in a lot of national polls, doing very well in state polls. But some of the internals below that, favorable, unfavorable, ask people, would you ever consider voting for Trump? He's doing better in some ways, but still pretty bad for a front-runner. Is it sustainable? Can he stay as a front runner, even if a lot of people say they'll never vote for him?
Well, a lot of people right now are saying they'll never vote for him, but that's true at this point in the race anytime. You get people with 30%, 20%, sometimes 40% winning the Iowa caucus. It doesn't really mean that that's how things are going to turn out in the end. There's a long road to go down. I think the trick is that can you sustain having a lead in the poll, but having almost half the people feeling unfavorably toward you? And I think that the answer is no. I mean, that you have to turn that around. And so if he does continue down this path, it will be because there are more people who are turned on to what it is that he's saying than are turned off.
And I know you, like the rest of us, have kind of basically become a amateur Trumpologist in the last couple months. You're studying a lot of numbers. What else strikes you, beyond the thing Mark just referred to, strikes you as unusual about where Trump stands currently in the polls?
Well, he's gotten where he's gotten by being very bold, very brash, and doing things that other candidates are choreographed to not do. And in fact, these things, it's not just that gaffes haven't hurt him, they have helped him. And I think what's unusual about this candidacy is that voters are able to put into context all of these things that he says. They've already been backstage with him. They sort of know this is who he is in his ordinary life. And so it fits into a context and it tells a story that is complete. With other candidates, when you don't know what they're really like, you sort of wonder about what's going on, and a gaffe is, when they're trying to correct it, can be fatal.
A mistake for an unknown candidate has a bigger impact than somebody people know.
Yes, absolutely.
So if Trump doesn't have Mr. Trump doesn't have a pollster, he likes to tell us. If you were Mr. Trump's pollster and he said, I want to go from 20 or so where I am in national polls up to 30, I don't want to lose the people I have now. Yeah. Can I get new people without alienating the people who already like me? What's your guess on that?
Well, my guess is he could. My guess is that the things that people like about him, and you and your focus group showed that there are a lot of things that people like. They like that he's a leader. They like that he's confident. They like that he's a deal doer. They like that he's run a complex organization and brought it out of bankruptcy a few times. So I think the more he tells that story and translates that in what will that do for the country, then people begin to get a vision of what a Trump presidency would be like. Now, he's got to execute on that, obviously. But to me, there's a plan to be had.
And if you look at the numbers and you dig into them, where are the Achilles heels? Where are the weak points that kind of indicate how, if Trump is going to fall, how that would happen?
Well, I don't know if it's in the numbers, so this might be more common sense. I think Trump will kill Trump. It's hard to see him just sort of fading away. That doesn't strike me as what he'll do. So it will either be something from his past that will come to light. He's written so many books about his life, it's hard to think that that's going to happen, or something that happens in the future. My guess is that he could be more like Ross Perot and decide this just isn't for him the second time around when Ross Perot ran. There's some commonality there in the kind of characters that they are.
All right, Ann Seltzer, our pollster, here with us today, here with us tomorrow, because tomorrow morning our new national poll about the Republican field comes out. You'll see who's in the all-important top 10. It will be released 6 a.m. tomorrow morning on BloombergPolitics.com. We'll have all the details about who's in that all-important top 10 as Fox moves towards selecting who gets into the debate. We'll have that for you tomorrow, and we'll be back, and we'll be back right after this. Reminding you again, 6 a.m. tomorrow on our website, the big poll we have coming out on the Republican field. And then tomorrow night, our pollster, Ann Seltzer, here with us tonight, here with us tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time on With All Due Respect, to run through all the results of the Republican national poll about the presidential picks of Republicans on BloombergPolitics.com right now. John's piece about Joe Biden. John, what's your bottom line about Joe Biden, whether he'll run and what happens if he does?
A little less than 50-50, and as I said before, I don't think it's good for Hillary Clinton. But the one thing, I know you and I disagree, but the one thing I think we both know, part of this is driven by the fact that Joe Biden not very happy with the Clintons right now. Remember, we're on twice a day at 5 and at 8. Until tomorrow, I have to say to you, sayonara.